SIMS TV!
No one knows Cold as Ice by Foreigner.
I know that song very well.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sims TV.
Nacho fries.
Wait, fucking fries.
More importantly, is that a baby? I see like a head. Whoa! Hello there, and welcome to Sims TV, the Saturday edition. I am your host, Steven Sims. We are Fat Mike-less today. I don't know if he forgot to show up or if I forgot to text him, but either way, he's not here. I hope everyone's doing all right. We had a pretty wild show last night. We played some dating games. We played F, Marry, Kill with my good friend Kara. We had some gentlemen suitors come on as well from the East Coast and from the West Coast. A lot of excitement. I woke up hungover. I checked in with Kara. She woke up hungover. She might even be watching. I don't know. Probably not. But anyway, we have an exciting show for you today. No drinking today. Just a lot of fun pop culture talk. I have a really great friend coming on the show. His name's Adam Novak. We went to high school together. We went to middle school together. We met each other when we were like 5 years old. The guy knows a ton about pop culture, and we're going to specifically touch on the late 90s, early 2000s, because that's when we were in middle school and high school. So let's not waste any more time. To all of our 5,000 viewers, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Novak.
Hello, everyone. Steve, thank you for having me.
Hey, Adam, thank you so much for doing this. I know it was put together fairly quick.
This was all the time I needed. I am a pro, as you know, so it's just an honor to be here.
And where are you broadcasting from?
I'm broadcasting from F Street on Capitol Hill, so I'm about 10 blocks from the capital of our fair nation, and about a 20-minute walk from the mall.
Oh, wow. What mall is that?
The Ross Park Mall, off of the runway, Moon Township.
That's the only mall I know.
Yeah.
We had our guest that was on last night, Kara, is from Bethesda?
Bethesda.
Did I say that right? Yeah.
No.
No, not at all. Yeah, she was on last night, and she lives in she works for the University of Maryland.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So, and
what does she do for Maryland?
Alumni relations.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, this is not interesting for the audience, but we should talk off air so she can find a job for my wife.
She literally told me this morning not to share what she does for a job, so I didn't.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'm in the same field.
No, I'm kidding. Well, I'm so glad you're able to be on the show. You are a good friend. We've known each other for a long time. We don't see each other that often, but whenever you were in Pittsburgh for a while, and when I would make it back east, I would check in, and now you're down in the D.C. area, living on Capitol Hill.
Yes, I'm in the swamp. Let's not forget, too, that the most random place that we saw each other.
Oh, yeah, we did see each other. That's right. That was about, 2.5 years ago in the Phoenix airport?
That's correct. It was the Phoenix airport. I was trying to get an early flight, and then it took off or some nonsense like that. And I was just stuck there. And then all of a sudden, I looked at Instagram to kill 5 hours of time. And I saw you take a photo of you and your friends at the Phoenix airport. And I thought, okay, well, this should be worth at least an hour or so.
Yeah, that was great. We were coming back from a shoot for Returning the Favor. It was like 2018, I think it was.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
I remember we were all, every time we were at the shoot, we're just like all slopped up traveling back to New York or LA. And we usually just drink our way back. And we were at like a TGI Fridays or something. And you came by, and like, I remember you had the best comment. You're like, oh, so this is how the entertainment industry dresses or something.
Yeah. No, you all looked very professional.
Like bandanas, and you had like a nice suit on.
Yeah, it looked like your moms were waiting to pick you up from a sleepover.
Yeah, that's how we like to roll.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen my hair? I've made no effort to cut it.
Well, you have an advantage, though, is now your whole look is just what the country looks like. So,
Yeah, no, and I've been doing this look for 15 years.
yeah. So look at you. You're ahead of the curve on many things, and now fashion and hygiene at the top of the list.
And if you're watching the show, I know it's Saturday. You're probably busy. People are out weeding like you were earlier. Send us your comments. We can share them on the screen. If you have questions for Adam, send them. We are going to get into some fun pop culture topics. But just so everyone knows a little backstory, Adam and I met in like Tiger Cubs or something, like early
Tiger
Boy
King.
Tiger King.
Yeah. No, we did. I'm trying to think of the year. It would have been like probably 1990, I bet.
Yeah, probably, because we were in middle school in like, what, 97, 98?
Yeah. That all sounds right. The timeline adds up.
Yeah, that timeline makes sense. So yeah, so we've known each other for 30 years.
We made our first communion together. There's an amazingly embarrassing photo floating around in someone's basement. We should have dug up before the show.
We should have. Well, we were ill prepared, but we'll get these photos and we'll bring them next time. We also were in band together. We were in marching band, and one of my favorite memories from marching band, and there's not a ton, but was that you were the band president senior year.
Yes.
Our buddy Dave was the vice president, and I was the treasurer, and we ran the whole. I mean, we ran everything. Like, it was such. We would book our band to play.
Yeah.
events.
Yeah, it was definitely like a Huey Long type situation, I would say. It was highly corrupt. It was I believe I ran unopposed, so I was like anointed like the Pope, and we went mad with power. It was great. It was and there are no good memories I have about marching band that involve music. I have such good memories about like getting in trouble or just being a smartass or not taking it seriously and making parents really angry. But then like there were 100 kids who just thought it was great. I loved it.
I love the fact that I was terrible at math, like where I was taking math every summer in summer school, and I was the treasurer.
That's true. Well, I mean, accounting and math are two separate skill sets.
Well, I wasn't good at either. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the comments real quick before we dive into the 90s pop culture. Our good friend Vince Eustace from up the road says, 90s pop culture, Tiger Cubs. This episode's going to be right up my alley. And Kara from last night, a survivor. Sims, you pulled yourself together nicely for the show. Thank you, Kara. Thank you very much. I actually, funny enough, had a Pop-Tart. That's all I've had so far is a Pop-Tart and some water. So the second this show's done, I'm going to have to rehydrate.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, it was wild last night. It was wild. We played Power Hour for the first hour live on the show. And then the second hour, we played this dating game, which is just a mess.
Wait, so the Power Hour, was it the where you have a song for 60 seconds and then you drink at the end of the song?
No, we just had my co-host / announcer, Fat Mike, shout drink every minute.
Oh, okay.
And we just talked. So we would just talk and then do a drink and then talk and then miss a drink. And then it really wasn't structured. There's nothing about this show that's structured.
Oh, could have fooled me. I find that hard to believe.
I find that hard to believe. So, the one thing when we first started talking about having you on the show was, what we wanted to talk about. We said late 90s, early 2000s pop culture.
Yes.
And the one thing I kept thinking about was, and I think you brought this up too, was, Kevin Smith comes to mind as a big one for us when we were in high school. And I remember the first time I saw a Kevin Smith movie, it was Clerks, and it was at your house, but it was also like downloaded from Napster or something.
Yeah, it was on like a Memorex disc that my brother wrote Clerks on with a Sharpie. And we played it on Windows Media Player on the screen of a probably old Dell computer. And it would have been like widescreen too, and a screen that wasn't formatted for it. But it was an interesting experience because it felt exciting because, one, we were watching a movie the way college kids were watching movies. And that in itself felt very cool and exciting to me. And it was also my first experience with independent film. Was it yours?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think any movie that we watched at your house that your brother gave you was like either an independent movie, like Pulp Fiction, because we were too young when that first came out.
Yeah.
Watching that later in high school. Clerks, of course, same thing. Any other, probably Bottle Rocket too, which is like my favorite movie.
Yeah, yeah. I think that we really were absorbing this independent film scene. We were like being kids in Pittsburgh. We were behind on what was going on in LA and New York. But at the same time, it was really kind of fun to like, oh, we're discovering this thing. It felt like a thing not a lot of other people knew about. And it felt very college and grown up and exciting and different. And it did just click something where, oh, not everything has to be like the Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie.
Why do you bring that up?
I was trying to think of the worst big budget 90s movie possible.
That's up there. It's funny because talking about like Napster or burning CDs, before the show started, we were also talking about music. We were just talking about some of the topics we want to talk about. And again, nowadays, if you want a song, you go to Spotify, or if you want to, whatever, you have a browsing software, a streaming software that you use to get the music, like anything else that we need.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time where all we had was, as kids, cassette tapes, as teenagers, CDs, and then all of a sudden, boom, this thing called Napster comes out of nowhere.
It was great.
And you just, like, you can't explain to anyone. Like, I'll never be able to explain to my nephew, or you'll never be able to explain to your kids, like, what it was like to be able to download something. I mean, it would take 3 days to get one song, but it was worth it.
Yeah, it was. And I also, back to like how we discovered Pulp Fiction and Clerks, there was also, by that point, Clear Channel had just taken over. So we were listening to WDVE, for you Western Pennsylvania people, and B94. What were the other stations we had? 105.9, the X. But they were all sort of bland, top 40, top 20, just of different genres. And that was another way where we could have access to music that was not necessarily easy to find. We didn't have like a cool record store that we could go to where a cool guy behind the counter would be like, hey kids, come learn about punk music.
Yeah, and I think it's also good to point out that we didn't grow up in Pittsburgh. We grew up 40 miles east of Pittsburgh in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. So there very well could have been a cool record store somewhere in Pittsburgh. We just weren't.
Yeah, we were the last people to know about it. We were very much suburban kids that didn't have. The only one who knew about cool stuff was Ian.
Oh yeah, and now
Ian knew about. He was like the only punk rock kid in his school of like 3,000 students, and he knew all of this great stuff. But
he's like a lead singer in some like Scandinavian punk rock band or something.
Yeah, exactly. His life turned out exactly the way you thought it would. But like nobody else really.
And I think I got that wrong, by the way. I don't think it's a Scandinavian punk band. I just know it's a band from overseas, and I wish I knew the name so we can give him a plug. But he's doing well. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. But I really think that these stealing. So this is a show about why stealing is good is important, because stealing allowed us to discover interesting and new forms of art that were formative in our teenage years. So for all you kids out there, stealing is good and we encourage it.
Yeah. Keep stealing. What are you going to steal from your house right now?
Oh my gosh. I have so many valuable things. So
just pick them off.
Yeah.
So Vince chimes in again, and I want to share Vince's comment, because this is actually really cool. Vince says, my dad showed me Clerks as a teen. I'm pretty sure he was testing me to see if we could be friends.
How did the test go, Vince?
Yeah, did you pass the test, Vince? We'll have to hear from Vince in a second.
Yeah, I want to know how that ended
Vince
up.
Vince is a really cool guy. He's been in a lot of sketches that I've written and produced, and we've had a lot of fun doing stuff. And I was talking to Vince the other day because he's going to come on the show soon, and we kind of lived near each other, so we always would go to the Chili's down in South LA.
Oh, excellent.
I'm like, Vince, I miss nothing more than sitting in that Chili's with you eating ribs right now. And he said he passed with flying.
Oh, good for you.
Good for you. So other movies that I think about, so you got Kevin Smith, and I personally, and I can't speak for you, I like really fanboyed out over Kevin Smith.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I just loved everything he did, and I even now, you look at what he does, it's like he's just doing what he wants to do. Like he even now has like a streaming service where you go on and he reads his current scripts to you, and like he's just
of course
doing anything he can, and he's making a buck off it. But I have two really fun Kevin Smith stories after moving to Hollywood. One is when I met Kevin Smith, which was so cool. Like I was working out of my office in Hollywood, and I was leaving the building, and he's just like walking around looking at these pictures, and I like immediately, and he's wearing a big hockey jersey that says Clerks.
Still hanging in there with the hockey jersey.
I know who it is, but all I can say is, "Yo, Silent Bob!" And he goes, "Hey man, how's it going?" And then we took a picture, and he was really cool. And I kept saying, I was like, "Are you gonna finish your Canadian horror trilogy with Yoga Hoosers and
Tusk?"
And I was like, "Are you gonna do Moose Jaws?" He goes, "Yeah, man, we're gonna do Moose Jaws." And I'm like, "Is it true Silent Bob dies in Moose Jaws?" And he's like, "Yeah, but before we do Moose Jaws, we're gonna do a reboot." And I'm like, "A reboot? What's he talking about?" And then like 2 months later, it was announced they were doing Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which I've watched twice and I love it.
I would be curious to see it. Just because we're at this point now where, they just came out with Rambo 5. So it's like, you want to do another Jay and Silent Bob movie? What difference does it make? Just do it.
Yeah, just do. I mean, the Rambo movie was absolutely terrible. The Jay and Silent Bob movie was not nearly as good as the first Jay and Silent Bob, but the concept to me was so freaking funny that it's the exact same thing, and he's just poking fun at it, but doing it.
If he's deconstructing it, I would like that. I want to point out one thing about Kevin Smith was the movie he did in Pittsburgh, Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
Love that.
And I thought that it was one of his best movies. And I think for that stage in his career where he was not like the hot comedy director anymore and not a hot independent director any longer, he just made a funny, well-made, smart, gross-out comedy, which is what he always tried to do. But I think because Seth Rogen was the lead, they had some expectations about box office that it didn't hit. And that was it for him as a budding mainstream director.
Yeah, I love Zack and Miri. I think Zack
it's very funny. Very funny.
I think both Elizabeth Banks and Kevin Smith are great, or Seth Rogen are fantastic together.
Mm-hmm.
The one story I always loved about that I heard Kevin Smith tell once was he was watching The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which has Seth Rogen in it. And he's like, "Who is this guy? He's hilarious. I need to put him in something." And then like 2 years later, he's driving down the road in LA and he sees a big billboard for Knocked Up. And there's that face of Seth Rogen. He's like, "What? Someone else put this guy in something as a leading male?" And then he was like, "I had to go after him for my next picture." And that's where that came from.
Oh, that's interesting. I had also heard that Seth Rogen said that Kevin Smith's movies were very influential on him. I mean, he's our age, so I'm sure when they're trying to come up with comedies, he played a formative role in their ideas. I also want to shout out to Mallrats as someone who's a comic book nerd. That in like the late 90s, the comic book boom had already gone bust by like 95. So they were not cool anymore by any stretch. And there were no the Batman franchise had pittered out. So it wasn't the cultural force that it is today. And that was it just felt like, okay, this is something that is made for me with a very specific taste. Jokes about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Marvel. It was such a glorious thing that a movie like that even existed. And I think that's sort of the special joy of Kevin Smith early in his career, is that he touched this part of this audience in this generation. He could have been his generation's Woody Allen.
Did you see Captain
Could have
Marvel?
been. Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that one.
There's a hold on one second. We got some comments coming in.
Oh, good.
Mike Sims. This might be too sophisticated for Sims TV.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. This is more of like a fresh air segment.
Read my comment hi. What are you talking about? He's breathing the fumes of that golf cart he drives around.
I know. Well, maybe if you gave him grandchildren, he wouldn't have to say things like that.
All right. He has 2 grandchildren. Listen,
you have to carry the name, though. Give him a grandson.
I'm the legacy. It ends
that's
with
right.
me, Novak. It ends with me.
Your name's going on to 3 rescue dogs.
Yeah, 3 rescue dogs and Sims TV.
Yeah, sorry, Mike.
Sorry. Yeah, I wanted to say Captain Marvel's great because there's a really good nod to Kevin Smith in it. And it's with Stan Lee, who I think that was the last Marvel movie he appeared in.
Oh, interesting.
Or one of the last ones, yeah. But yeah, you should check it out. Captain Marvel is actually pretty good. I know we talk a lot about on a text chain. We talk a lot about the Avenger movies and stuff. But it seems like there's some like Ant-Man and stuff you haven't seen yet.
There are certain ones that I missed. I would see everything in theaters, and then as children started arriving, I would see them on business trips if I had time in the evening. And now it's becoming, I catch probably one Marvel movie a year in theaters and then have to stream or rent the rest. So it is no longer appointment film watching for me. Though I like them.
Lucky for you, the movie theaters are probably out of business.
I know. I think it's interesting that Disney, this platform, they can just scale down the budgets. They have some of like the second tier actors locked in the contracts, and if the movie theaters go out of business, they'll just move forward with, we'll do 8-episode miniseries, things like The Mandalorian, and they won't miss a beat. And it's sad. I mean, it really is, because I love that experience. I love being in the theater and seeing the Star Wars opening titles, and I love when the Marvel thing flashes on the screen. And that is, if that really does go away, it will be very, very sad.
Well, I think it will go away to a degree, but Disney's also still taking movies that are supposed to be in theaters, and I think that will still be the theatrical release, but you're just going to see it at home now, like Onward and the Hamilton movie, which is coming out this summer, all now acquired by Disney. So.
Well, it's going to be a blurred line, though, between television and movies. And that's going to really change the genres. Because tell me what the difference is between The Mandalorian and the last Star Wars trilogy.
I think I couldn't get through The Mandalorian. I felt it to be kind of crappy.
Wow, that's a take. Really?
Yeah, I wasn't
Expand on that.
I mean, I watched, I think, the first 2 episodes, and I just was like, I really love the actor who plays Mandalorian. I love the actor who plays Baby Yoda, but I was just
he's good.
Yeah, he's great. I just was like, I wasn't feeling it, but at the same time, I wasn't feeling the latest Star Wars trilogy, and I just watched episode 9 the other day, and I really enjoyed it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I need to watch it again. I watched it in theaters, but I think I might have just been happy to be out of the house. So that's possible that affected my judgment.
Well, I saw the episode 8 and episode 7 in theaters, and I loved The Force Awakens. I didn't love the second one in the trilogy, but this third one I thought was really, really, really a fun ride.
Oh, I definitely thought it was fun. There were some things where I was like, wait, what's happening? However, the things that were good about that movie were really, really good. What we should talk about is when we went to see Attack of the Clones on opening night a few weeks before we graduated high school.
Yes, I remember that. That would have been 2002, and probably April, May 2002, around this time. And yeah,
it was around. It would have been 18 years ago.
Yeah, 18 years ago, probably almost, possibly to the day.
To the
18
day.
years ago. Yeah, we went and saw what was the second one called? The
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. And, you know, again, growing up in a small suburb of Pittsburgh, you know, like Adam said before, we only had access to so much, but you did have your diehard Star Wars fans. And I think we were fans, but we weren't dressing up like anyone. But I do remember driving around the parking lot and our friend Nikki Moose Johnson waving a lightsaber out of my car window screaming, "I love Jar Jar Binks," and getting so mad at him.
I mean, I think in any scenario in high school when we were doing very mundane things, if Nick was involved, it really livened things up. Like when we would work at KFC, we were being paid to work at KFC, and then Nick would come in as a customer and just eat at the buffet. Those were all really entertaining times.
I think I have all of that on video somewhere, and I should have taken the time to dug some of it up.
My gosh. You documented everything.
I did. I always had a camera. I always thought it was great to document stuff. I mean, we documented the stupidest stuff, though. Like, we threw now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of funny. We would throw shopping carts off the parking garage.
I was not there for that, I want for the record.
Well, they're going to come after you now and arrest you?
Well, there's a video tape of it. It's going to be evidence.
Yeah, it's somewhere in my garage. Probably molded away at this point.
I know. Let's hope.
But yeah, no, so we went.
Do you remember, not to interrupt, but this is it's a great video, is when we would videotape us going to Ponderosa a lot. And like, for all your friends who like grew up around LA who are watching this, everything that's sad about growing up in like Appalachia is really coming to light for them. But we would videotape going to Ponderosa. And I specifically recall one night in the episode of Going to Ponderosa, Dave left his glasses there, and we filmed going back to the restaurant for Dave to pick up his glasses. And it was a great episode because that was like the mid-tier twist.
Yeah,
second act twist. Dave did not have his glasses, and we had to go back.
There was a lot of exciting stuff that we did, and again, it was all filmed, which was like the dumbest thing you could do, because if the cops ever caught us in any of the situations, like throwing the shopping cart off the mall parking garage or speeding down the alleyway doing something stupid, and
God, yes.
That's their evidence right there. But anyway. Yeah. It was a wild time. We spent a lot of time at Ponderosa, and if you are from the Appalachia area, you would know a good Ponderosa if you've seen one.
Absolutely.
We spent a lot of time at Wendy's.
Yeah, Wendy's. Eaton Park. Eaton Park was fun because it was open late, and that felt like going to the bar almost.
Yeah, the salad bar.
Yeah, you could get the salad bar, and it was like something to do. Dino's was a big thing too, which we should tell the viewers at home. Dino's was a sports bar in Latrobe, the next town over, and they had very good wings, and we would go on wing night. And my parents would always be so upset when I would go. And my mom would be like, well, if you just want chicken for dinner, I'll make you chicken. That's not an issue. And she just could not understand that the whole purpose was to get out of the house. That I was 16, growing up in Greensburg, and I just needed to leave sometimes.
And Mike Sims chimes in perfect with you were the Goldbergs before its time. I don't watch that show. I'm familiar with it, though.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
And Vince says Ponderosa was good. Vince is from the Baltimore area.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of parallels between growing up in Western Pennsylvania and Baltimore.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure most of my LA friends that grew up here aren't tuning in.
They can't relate to any of this.
Yeah,
they were probably going to like awesome punk rock shows when they were 12 years old and eating at Michelin restaurants and
it is really crazy though just to meet someone that grew up in LA or like the surrounding areas, because take that like that aside, like it's just like a whole different way of life. Like it's just like I love LA, but there's a work ethic in Pittsburgh and the East Coast that shines much brighter than it does here on the West Coast.
That I have no trouble believing. My brother, who has lived in Washington, in the Washington area since like 15 years or something like that, and he has had people work for him. And how would you describe my brother?
Well, the last time I saw him, he was violently ill.
Yeah, throwing up. That's the last time you saw him. Violent stomach flu.
And it was like you felt so bad because it was just a stomach flu. It wasn't like we were drinking and it was the next day. It was just stomach flu.
Well, it didn't stop you and I from drinking.
No,
but yeah, that's how I would describe him. But he has these people who work for him, and they'll have all of these like degrees and fancy schools and all of that, but they're just not that smart and don't work hard. And he has no patience for it at all. And it's very stressful for him. But I could listen to him complain about his employees all day. It's a glorious thing.
Yeah, that was one of my first jobs I had. I was an assistant here in LA, and I met someone. They were from Chicago, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Midwest, East Coast, we need more of them." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" And then I realized, like, growing up in LA, I think it's nice outside. Marijuana's been legal for like 20 years. Like, you can kind of just like there's just like things that we don't have. That again, growing up, these kids had access to that made it not them hard workers, but just made it more of like a lax lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. They had things to do. There, you go out of your house and you could go to the beach. You could see cool shows and all the rest. Where I remember that summer we worked at KFC, genuinely looking forward to going in because it was like a break from being at home all day.
Yeah, and it's
so
like,
there you have it.
Do you think your mom really wanted to make you chicken, and you were eating chicken at the wing shop, and you were making chicken at KFC. All she wanted to do was make you chicken.
I know. I feel bad as I look back on it.
Well,
but I appreciate the expertise that's given me. So now that there's a great debate between the Chick-fil-A sandwich and the Popeyes sandwich, I have something of an expertise given my professional background, our professional background.
As you know, though, there's nothing being compared to the KFC chicken sandwich.
Yeah, the vaunted KFC chicken sandwich.
No one wants the KFC chicken sandwich.
I would rank the KFC food by how easy it was to steal during work.
Oh, some of the things that would go on, not by us, but by some of the coworkers in that store.
Oh, that was dark.
In dark situations, man. Like, that was the moment where I realized I don't mind having a job in high school, but I don't want my job being at a fast food restaurant.
Yeah, those guys that like we knew from high school that were 2 or 3 years ahead of us, and it's like, this is not their summer job. This is not their job part-time while they're at school. This is their life. And that was rough. That was, you and I, neither of us were shining scholars in high school, but I think that work was the kick in the pants that we needed.
I remember our buddy Dave working with us, and the one manager absolutely hated him. She hated him.
God.
But Dave hated washing the dishes, and for some reason he would rather clean out the fryers. But he would clean the fryers. I'd wash the dishes. Then he'd go, "Excuse me, so-and-so, want to check the fryers?" She wouldn't even look at it. She's like, "Dave, I know they're not clean. Keep going." So he would clean the fryers, and then I'd go in and be like, "Hey, so-and-so, I just cleaned the fryers." "Oh, Steve, I know they look good."
Oh, that's great. I also recall, we could do a whole show of just Dave stories. He'll never come on your show, so we might as well just tell the stories about him.
I'm really hoping that this episode makes a big splash in the podcast world, and Dave will listen to it.
I think so. We have a better shot at communicating to Dave through podcasts, through pre-recording sessions, than seeing him in person. So this is a good venue for that.
I don't even know if Dave knows what a live stream is.
I don't know, though. I do think he's in his glory right now, right? Has there been anyone better suited for a pandemic than Dave?
I haven't seen Dave in a while, but if I remember correctly, he actually, I don't even need to remember correctly. Last fall, every year, you, your brothers, and some friends from high school, a group of guys get together and do a camping trip.
Mhm.
You always invite me, and unfortunately, I was close to being able to make it last year, but it didn't work out. And every year, Dave's invited, and Dave's brother goes, and Dave lives near in the area, not too far from where the camp is, but Dave never shows up. Is that correct?
Well, it's like a leap year thing. Like every 3 to 4 years, Dave does in fact come, and it's like, so it's exciting too because he'll show up early in the morning and then he'll stay, and then we'll wake up the next morning and he'll be gone. Like all evidence that he was ever there, it has vanished, and it's a very exciting thing. He pulled a similar thing at when I had a bachelor party when I got married 6 years ago. We camped out at my uncle's cabin, and we didn't like show up until 1 o'clock. Dave drove in from DC, got there like at 10 in the morning, and then made small talk with my great uncles for like the afternoon. And then like we got there and then we talked for about an hour, and he was like, well, I got to get back to Washington. Good seeing you. And that was it.
He would do that in high school too. We'd have a sleepover, and you'd wake up the next day, and Dave would be gone.
He would just disappear, except for one sleepover that my mom brings up from time to time because I didn't sleep at all. I believe we watched The Exorcist, and it was the first time I had ever seen it. I think we had like some of the ladies of the Hempfield band over with us as well, and we wanted to be cool and watch The Exorcist. And then we stayed, and you're very comfortable with the Prince of Darkness invoking terror as a Hollywood man. But for a guy like me, that was like the scariest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I did not sleep once. And I remember Dave like convinced me that like the devil was out on your back porch.
My porch?
Yes, you're like a shadow that was cast by a tree really looked like the face of Satan, and it was very terrifying.
Well, you know, the face of Satan has been following me around since 1997.
You greet him like an old friend,
like an old pal. This is really great. We didn't really touch on a whole bunch of pop culture, but we touched on a lot of great memories.
Yeah, this is better. Though we should emphasize Kevin Smith was formative for us, and it all went terribly wrong somewhere along the way.
It did. And I have one other Kevin Smith story, not with Kevin Smith directly, but this was the one that really got me going. When I say the name Scott Mosier, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. Is that the guy who plays his buddy?
Yeah, well, no, that's Jason Mewes, but yeah. Scott Mosier produced all the movies we grew up
watching. Okay, I'm confused.
And Chasing Amy, he's the guy with Casey Affleck that goes, "You're a fucking tracer, man."
Yeah, exactly.
So my wife and I were meeting with a wedding planner about a year before we got married. So this is like 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we're at a restaurant, and it's family-style seating, like a restaurant bar. And I'm sitting there, and my wife's next to me, and the wedding planner's in front of her. And then Scott Mosier sits down next to me. And I just shut down. I don't say anything to him. I don't say anything to my wife. I'm just like freaking out the whole time. And I could hear him talking about the movies he produced. And I'm just like losing my mind. Like,
did you talk to him?
No, I didn't say anything because I was trying to focus on the wedding planning, which I didn't focus on either.
You should tell your hero that they inspired you to go to Hollywood.
It was a bad situation that it just didn't work out well. So, but I can't tell you how many people I've met in Hollywood that I consider a hero, and I've just been like,
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Who's the most famous person you met?
Met or worked with?
Met.
Quentin Tarantino.
What was that like?
That was pretty cool. That was my first summer in LA, July of 2007.
It was your first summer?
Oh. First summer in LA. I was only here for like 4 months. It was 4th of July. I'm walking down Venice Beach, and I'm with a friend, and I look up at like the beach houses, and I see Harvey Keitel sitting on like in a beach chair.
Awesome.
And then next to him is Quentin Tarantino. And I was just like,
right
when like Death Proof came out, and I was like, yo, Tarantino, big fan, just saw Death Proof, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, hey, man, hey, you got any sausage? And I was like, what? He's like, do you got any sausage? And I was like, no, I don't got any sausage. He goes, this guy, and he points to Keitel and goes, he invites me over here. He doesn't have any sausage. And I was just like, to this day, I'm like, why didn't I go to Ralph's and buy him some freaking sausage?
I know. That was a hint. Well, he's used to having assistants, so when he says something like that out loud, 5 like production assistants are scrambling to get Quentin his sausage.
So that was my interaction with Quentin and Harvey Keitel. I don't think Harvey Keitel said 2 words, but that would probably be the biggest one would be that and Kevin Smith interaction wise. But working wise, I would have to say Apatow and Sandler and all those guys.
Oh, absolutely. That would have been incredible. So Pittsburgh filmed many movies when I was working there. And I got to be an extra in the Russell Crowe prison breakout thriller.
I'm going to watch that today.
Yeah. If you pause it at 55 minutes and 55 seconds, you can see me wearing a lab coat walking into a building while you can tell by my look, they're like, okay, this guy looks good in the lab coat. So they, when Russell Crowe is like breaking into a van with a tennis ball, and that's his plot to get his wife out of jail. And I got to I said hello to Russell Crowe, and he just kind of grunted in a friendly way. And then I talked to his stand-in and his stuntman for like 2 hours. And they talked to me about filming. Do you remember he was in a Robin Hood movie?
No.
Yeah, they talked to me about filming the Russell Crowe Robin Hood movie.
Well,
pretty interesting.
It's funny you bring that up because when I was Jonah's stand-in on Funny People in 2008, like Adam Sandler's stand-in is like the Adam Sandler of the stand-in world. Like he shows up, brings his own chair. Like he's just like the top dude in like the stand-in world. And I remember him coming up to me and be like, man, you look so much like him. You're good at your job. You're going to make a career out of this. And then the next day, Jonah Hill fired me. But nevertheless, it was really great to meet Sandler's stand-in and go there.
Well, it's what I like about that, and back to Tarantino, is when I saw the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood movie, and the big point is Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio at the stand-in, a stunt double and an actor, and they're best friends. And that was basically what those Russell Crowe guys, they talked about how they were all in each other's weddings and they go like vacation together and shit like that. So that is a weird, had you played your cards right, that could have been your life.
It could have been my life.
Been in the stand-in for Moneyball and Wolf of Wall Street.
I could be in an Adidas commercial. Right?
I know. And now you're here talking to me. So there you go.
We are. Well, I want to wrap things up, Adam, just because we're getting to that hour. And I'm sure you got to get back to something that's more important to what I got to do.
Well, I have mulch calling my name. So
you have mulch calling your name?
Yeah, I pulled the weeds, and then we're going to throw some mulch down on the front yard.
Oh, wow. You really do have a big day. We're doing all of our house chores tomorrow. Today, taking it easy on the couch. Going to watch you at 55 at Prison Break.
Excellent. Excellent.
I really do want to have you back, though, and I think we should do a roundtable of 90s, early 2000s pop culture. We'll get you. We'll get my buddy Vince on here. We'll talk about all stuff, and we'll just kind of have some subjects, and we'll do that in the future.
Yeah, because I got some bombs to throw on the best movies of the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, I think we get some more people involved. Maybe we can see if your brother or someone wants to join, and some of the guys we talked to on the chain, and we'll have a fun little round table of pop culture excitement.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for having me. We wish you all the best. This television show, I know it's going to be a big hit.
Already is, baby. Flying off the shelves. We actually have a closing end bit, if I can find it. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Novak, all the way from across the country in the Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill area.
That's right.
Out there, buddy. And all the best to you and your family. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Steve. Let's do this again.
Later, man. Have a good one.
All right.
TV. Have a great weekend.